Hi, thanks for joining me here on Stamp with Julie Baum. Today we're going to make these adorable little Santa tags. Now you might have seen these and a bunch of you asked for a tutorial, so today's the day.
Okay, let's begin. I will tell you that I got inspiration for this cute Santa tag on somewhere. I was shopping for things online and ran across these tags that you could buy. And of course, like a stamper or a crafter, when you see something and you go, I could make that. And so that's where I got my inspiration. That was my thought. So I'm pulling a lot of different pieces from here. What you're going to find is you might have to substitute with things that you have, but let's go through the steps. And then, like I said, you can substitute the things that will work just as well, that maybe look a little bit different, but in case you don't have the exact items. So I started with Nested Essentials and I used the largest of the rounded rectangles. So I got a piece of real red cardstock that measured 2 3/4 inches by 3.5 inches. So like this. And then I put my die on there and die cut it. So I ended up with this shape. Now, if you don't have a die that is going to give this size and shape, you can just start with a rectangle, maybe a little bit smaller than this one. Just cut it, and perhaps you have a corner rounder, and then you can just round the corners. So that would be a good option. All right, then I needed the white ruffle at the bottom, and this was actually the part that I struggled the most with because I didn't know from my supplies what to use. And then I dug really deep and found a very old large scallop. This was called an edgelet at the time. I think they had different categories, but it's basically a scalloped die. So I took a piece of white cardstock. Let's see. This one started out at 4 inches by about an inch or 1.25 inches. And I went ahead and just ran it through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and did the die cut like so. Now I'm going to need to trim this down. So I'll just take my Stampin' trimmer. I feel like it's easiest to do it this way. Get your shape and then trim down from the straight side instead of trying to start with a piece of paper that's exactly the right size. All right, so we're going to trim this down quite a bit. I'm going to take one swipe at it and then see if we need to do any more. All right, so now you can see I've got that trimmed down. Let's take a look. Again, this is a very free-form kind of project. It's not a perfect recipe. All right, I think that's fine. Actually, I want a little bit less, so I'm gonna trim off a teeny bit more from this, and then we'll kind of get a measurement and you can make note of that. But honestly, when I was making them, I just eyeballed it, and once I got it going, I just kept repeating the steps. Okay, so that looks about right to me. Here's my sample, my completed one. Here's this one. Then, as you can see, you only need about 1 full and 2 half scallops if you're using this exact die. Of course, yours might vary. So all I'm going to do is go ahead and glue this on and then cut the edges off. And I'm centering my center scallop just so that this looks centered to your eye. All right, let's get some glue, and I'm going to bring in my silicone mat so that any extra that might ooze out goes onto the silicone mat. All right, let's see if this glue is ready for me. All right, I don't need glue across the whole thing because I am going to snip off those sides. I just need it basically behind these 3 scallops. All right, so that's going to get glued on. Again, this center one is the one that I'm looking to center on my shape on the tag itself. And then I'm going to press it down, make sure it's lined up completely at the bottom there. All right, that is now in place. And then watch what I do with my paper snips. I'm just going to turn this over and I'm going to trim around the shape of that red rounded rectangle. So I'm just going to come around here on that side and come over here That way my white ruffle, or I guess Santa wouldn't have ruffles, trim, the fur trim is the same shape now as my tag. All right, so now we've got that. All right, next we need a belt. And so I just have a scrap of black cardstock. This piece happens to be 4 inches by 1.5 inches, which is really larger than you need. What we need is a 1/4 inch strip. So we're going to cut the scrap down a 1/4 inch strip. And ultimately, we only need it to be 2 3/8, but I'm going to have it extend on both sides and then trim it. You know, if you've watched me, that I think when you're lining something up like this that goes all the way across a page or a shape, it's easier to make it extra long and then trim it off. All right, I'm trying to get something gluey out of the way. There we go. You can see I've got some others started, so I'll be able to make some more of these. Bring in my trimmer. And I want this to be a 1/4 inch wide. So there's my 1 inch, here's my 1/2 inch, and here's my 1/4 inch. Okay, that looks a little bit skinnier than this one. I must have done this one wider. Let's go a little bit wider. So instead of a 1/4 inch, let's do 3/8. See, aren't you glad you're doing this along with me? Like I said, I didn't have any measurements. I was just eyeballing something from inspiration. There we go. That's exactly what we wanted. So this strip is going to end up being 3/8 of an inch wide. And that is going to be our Santa belt. Now, you can see this area here. I created that by just cutting a square of this same piece. It's already the 3/8 inch wide, and I'm going to go 3/8 of an inch the other way, and that's going to give me my square. The reason that I did that is it's giving us the illusion, okay, the illusion of this belt buckle. What I did not do is create a square with slots in it and actually feed this through, which if you are up to that, more power to you. I thought that this totally looks good enough, even though it's not actually woven through. It's just glued on top of my gold square. So that I will leave to you to figure out if you want to do it like I did or not. All right, let's put the belt on. And I don't need glue all the way on these outer edges because they're going to get trimmed off. And I'm looking at my sample. I came up a little ways from the trim. About like so. You want to have enough space for your gold belt buckle. And you want to have enough space for at least 2 buttons. So that's why I placed it close to the trim, just a little gap in between. And if you are curious, that is about, I would say it's not quite a 1/2 inch above. Here's my 1/4, here's my 1/2. Yeah, it's not quite a 1/2 inch above if you're one who measures. I just eyeballed it. All right, let's cut off the little black edges of the belt. There we go. We're well on our way. All right, next, since we're working with the black cardstock, let's just go ahead and continue, and then we'll come back and do our buckle. So I have an old circle punch. This was quite possibly part of a 3-pack which comes out at different times. Stampin' Up! Will release 3 packs of punches. This is a circle punch that is, if I had to measure it and tell you, I would say this is a 3/8 circle punch. And this is the size that it's going to give us. So I just took a scrap and punched out a couple of buttons. All right, let's put our buttons on. And I'm going to show you how I did this. I used my Take Your Pick tool, and I picked up my button with the sticky end. And well, let's lay it on here. Why don't we lay it on and get a dry fit first? I want that first button low enough that I'm not going to worry about where the hole gets punched there. And then here's the next one. All right, so you can see how our buttons are going to go. Now, let's pick this one up. Put our little bit of glue right where it was and replace it right back in its spot. Okay, and then I can do the same thing for the next one. I think that's a little bit easier than trying to put the glue on here and then it falls off or drops. And if you don't have a Take Your Pick tool, I have several links in the description box below this video. This is a wonderful multi-purpose tool that I use for all kinds of things. And today that sticky end came in really handy. Okay, next is our little belt buckle. So I had some gold glimmer paper. Look through your paper. It can just be a scrap. You don't need a large piece. This is a lovely piece of glimmer paper, and I like our glimmer papers because the glitter doesn't come off. I don't know how they do it, but it's like baked into the paper. Somehow it is stuck on there really good. So I'm going to trim a square. Let's see how big a square I used this time. About, I don't want my centimeters because I don't work in centimeters. 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch. So let's try that. All right. I just had someone coming to my door, and I'm surprised that Pino didn't bark. So that's what I was kind of holding my breath about. All right, 3/4 of an inch. By 3/4 of an inch. And that gives us our square. Look at the tiniest scraps are used in this. So you could make 8 or 10 of these very easily with not a lot of product, just not a lot of things that you have to use. All right, so here is my square, and it's going to go right here. My button is even a little bit low. Look at this one. This one's a teeny bit better, okay? These are up a little bit higher. There goes my buckle. Because I do feel like the buckle needs to be somewhat centered this way and this way on the belt so that it looks right. So yes, I mean, you're creating this one as I'm going along too. I would definitely have that button up a little bit higher, each of those 2 buttons, just up a little bit higher. All right, let's put our little square on. Where did it go when I moved everything? Here we go. All right, and I'm gonna put my glue. I'm trying to get that straight, did you see? There we go. I'm going to put my glue right here. Now, this is very textured, and so I am going to make sure that I give this little black square some time to dry before I use these tags, whether I'm going to tie them on a package or group them up in a little package and give them as a gift. You really want to make sure that that black square has had time to really stick to your glimmer paper. If you're worried about it, you could also use a little bit of tear and tape as your adhesive instead of your liquid glue. All right, let's punch our hole. I have a 1/16 of an inch hole punch, which I think is this one. This is not a Stampin' Up! Punch. It happens to be a Fisker's punch, but I have literally had this for years, maybe decades. So I'm not sure, and I don't have this linked. I'm going to let you search for a hole punch. You could use a different size if you already have something that works, but I'm using a 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to mark it with a pencil. I think once you get this in and you're trying to see where to punch, it's a little difficult. So I'm just going to make a little pencil mark where I want the hole. And then I have a guide when I'm looking where this needs to punch. There we go. Last up is some red and white twine. Let me grab mine. Stampin' Up! Has offered some red and white twine this season. I also happen to have some other twine. This was more of, I think this was bought in a backup emergency situation, and I had to get it from Michael's. So this is a thicker twine. It'll be fun to see both. You could use plain white, plain red, plain black. You could use silver. I mean, really the options are endless. So I can already tell just by feeding this through and the fraying that I'm getting, which it doesn't bother me, but I can tell the quality of the Stampin' Up! Twine. Look, it's not even fraying. All right, and then I am going to go ahead and tie a knot in this. Sometimes I will add twine in a different manner, more of the loop and pull through, but I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot in this one, I think, because I really don't want it coming off of the package or slipping out. As you watch me fumble. Good grief. There we go. All right, there is our knot and our little tag. Now I'm going to trim that up. Let's make that look better. I'm going to go ahead and show you. Okay, there's that. Here's this one. Like I said, the buttons are better on this one. So for placement, make sure you do that. And then I'm going to show you that other way to attach the twine. I'm actually going to cut this one out so I can show you the other way in case you prefer not tying a knot. And let me see if I have some more of that thin twine. All right, I don't have any more of the red, white, and silver, but here's a thin twine that is red. That's kind of nice. And what other option do I have? Of course, plain white. All right, now look at this. This is really, really old. We don't sell the twine on a little cardboard thing like this, but this is some red and white twine. So let's use that. And I'll just show you the optional way to feed your twine through the hole. I'm going to straighten this out a little bit just by pulling on it, help get some of those kinks out. Then I'm going to take the two free ends. Now, if you guys watch me a lot, you're going to find something interesting. I was finding that during my recording, I was beginning to slip down here, and so it was hard to see what I was doing. So today I'm like making paying special attention to stay up here in a better camera view. And then a couple times I've looked and like, now I'm going to start drifting up here. All right, I've got the two free ends that I've put together. I'm going to slide them through the hole that we punched from the back of the project. Then with this loop, I'm going to open the loop up, grab those two pieces and pull them through. All right, that is pretty much the way I usually add twine, but on this one I did make a knot, so that's why we wanted to talk about that. All right, there you have it. In this case, do leave quite a bit of length on your twine, because if you're going to be tying this to a package or to the handles of a gift bag, you're going to need a little bit of length to work with. So if I was adding twine like this, and then this was going to go on a card front, like as just decoration, I would trim it way down. But if you're actually going to be tying it on, make sure that you leave yourself enough length. I will tell you that this is total about 8 inches. So 8 inches of twine, but then doubled and looped through, and that's what it will give you. So there you have it. There are our adorable Santa tags. I'm so happy that you wanted to make these. I thought they were a ton of fun to make. And now, as you can see, I actually have a couple more that I can finish up and add to the others that I made. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy stamping.